Okay, let's talk about integrating Smokeping with LibreNMS. Now, Smokeping is a totally separate software product that you install on a server, and it monitors the latency between that server and different devices of your choosing. As we all know, bandwidth is probably the most important thing to monitor, and network latency is probably number two in that category. Luckily, LibreNMS actually gives us a way to monitor network latency right off the bat. We don't have to do anything. So when we add a device, there's actually a latency tab here, and you'll see that there is graphs here monitoring the network latency. The issue with this graph is that if you're set up for 5-minute polling, it's only polling one ping every 5 minutes. So anything can happen in between those 5-minute intervals, and it wouldn't even show up on this graph. The other thing is it's only pinging one time. It's only sending out one ping, and that's really just to make sure the device is up. But you might as well graph the latency while you're at it, while you're doing that ping. So because it's only pinging one time, you might just happen to hit, if you are taking packet loss or some high latency issues, you might just happen to hit the good ping every 5 minutes. Now, I've seen over time, like hours and days, you'll definitely hit one of those every once in a while, but it won't tell you the true story. You might see like a packet loss here or some high latency, but it might be a lot worse than what this graph is really showing you. So the other thing you might be thinking is like, okay, well, we can just go down to 1-minute polling, and yes, you can, and you should if your hardware can support it. There's really no reason you shouldn't go to 1-minute polling. But even at that, you're still only sending one ping every minute. So if that ping just happens to be fine every minute interval, this graph still won't show you the full story. And that's where Smokeping comes in. So Smokeping's sole focus is network latency, and Smokeping has actually been out for quite a while now, and I was actually going through here trying to figure out when Smokeping came out, and I saw an interesting thing on here. Well, this is the first release that was on their website, 2006, but I'm pretty sure it's older than that. But I was looking through the site's visit, and in 2020, it jumped double from 2019, and why do you think that is? Could it be that everybody started working from home and started complaining about latency and told their network administrators, hey, how can we monitor this? Well, they went into Google and saw Smokeping, and this is where we got. So yeah, as you can see, people still want to use it, still want to monitor it today. So before we start integrating it with LibreNMS, it's kind of important to know how Smokeping works all by itself, because once you kind of understand that, it becomes kind of second nature how to integrate it, what you need to expect from LibreNMS. So the first thing I want to talk about is probes here, and probes in Smokeping are basically the methods of monitoring your latency. When we think about latency and pings, we ping something, we get a round trip time, loss, min average. But there's other things like DNS, like how long it takes to do a DNS lookup. There's other ones, LDAP. You can scroll through the list here, radius latency, how long it takes, SSH, how long it takes to SSH into a device, telnet. There was like curl commands in here. There's a whole bunch of them in here that Smokeping supports. So you should go through this list and look at all of them. Now, for the bad news is that LibreNMS only supports ping. So you can't integrate any of these other ones with LibreNMS. You can, I believe, I haven't tested this myself, but you can run these concurrently with LibreNMS. You would just have to view these through the Smokeping web GUI. You're not going to be able to view them through the LibreNMS web GUI. So yeah, this is just to keep in mind. So probes are the one thing, and the next thing is going to be targets. And targets are the things you're going to be monitoring, the devices. So probes are the actual method of monitoring, and targets are the things you want to monitor. And you set both of these in config files on your hard disk. Okay, now we're finally ready to start integrating Smokeping with LibreNMS. Now, if you have your RRD files on a separate server running RRD cached, then things become a little tricky. And I'll go over that in the end, what you need to do. You are going to have to do the same install process. It's just a matter of what server you're going to do it on. So if you're running everything on one server, we're good to go. You can just continue on here. So what we need to do is we need to go to the Ubuntu section, since we're running Ubuntu. And we're going to install the Smokeping package. And I've just logged into my server here. I'm going to switch to root for all this. And we'll install the package. I might already have it installed. Now the next thing we're going to do here is install a cron job that basically runs every hour, and on this hour it's going to run two commands that update the targets of Smokeping, so what devices to go out and ping. So remember that if you add a device into LibreNMS, you have to wait that hour before it actually gets added into the Smokeping, or you could just run it manually for that matter. So we're going to install this here. And if we want to look at this script, you can see here that it's just running this LNMS command, smoke pings generate, and it's going to put a file in this directory here. So if we go into this directory, we can see this is where all our config files are. And if we go into config.d here and list that, you'll see all these config files in here. Now what LibreNMS is actually going to do is generate a new file and put it in here. But first, before we do that, we have to tell Smokeping to look at these new files. And what we're going to do here is we're going to edit two files here, probes and targets. So what they want us to do in here in probes is actually delete everything and just include this line. So that's what we're going to do here. Put a space in, save that, and then we're going to do the same thing with targets. It wants to delete everything in this, and it wants us to put this in there. So really all that is Smokeping is looking at that probes file, and then it's going to say, hey, read this file also. The same with the targets file. And that LNMS command is going to generate this file when that cron job runs every hour, or we can kick it off manually. So let's just go ahead and save these two files here, and we can list in here. Okay, so we don't have those two extra files in here yet. So now what we can do is we can actually just run this file right here. Okay, so we have these two files in here, and you could actually look at these files, and we'll see all our devices in here, as you can see here. So the other one is that probes file, and we can look at that one too. And LibreNMS generated this. So these probes here are actually different threads, I guess, or processes that are pinging stuff. So you can actually increase these if you have a lot of devices. In fact, you will have to increase this count if you have a lot of devices because it's just too much to handle once you get to like thousands of devices for just two of these to ping. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over to the web GUI here. We're going to go into global settings, external, Smokeping integration. We're going to want to turn this on, and we're going to want to change this. You could leave it here. It wouldn't hurt anything, but usually I like to keep all my RRD files in the same location. So I'm actually going to change this and move it over to the LibreNMS RRD. And you know what? It's telling me that directory doesn't exist because I need to create it first. So let me just do that real quick. And I'm doing this all under root, but I'm probably going to have to change the permissions of this guy to LibreNMS. You happy with that? All right, there we go. Now, this pings is what I was talking about in the beginning of the video, where LibreNMS by default only pings one time. Now, Smokeping actually can ping multiple times right at the same time, and basically it takes as the averages of those pings, and that is what your ping is. And then the smoke in the graph is the differences between each ping. So usually I like to set this to like 20. So it's actually going to send out 21 pings, and the first ping it's going to throw away, because usually when you start a ping process, the first one's a little off, and then after that you kind of get a good idea of what's going on. So it's actually going to ping it 21 times, but really after the first one, only the last 20 get reported. And the smoke ping URL, we'll come back to this because you don't actually need to set up this for it to be integrated with LibreNMS. That is more if we go in here and we click in Tools and Smoke Ping, it'll actually take us to the Smoke Ping web GUI. So for now, we're just going to leave it like that. And now we should see, yeah, Smoke Ping. If we clicked on that, it wouldn't take us anywhere because that's going to try to take us to the Smoke Ping web GUI. Okay, so here's the Smoke Ping service, and it looks like it already started. Okay, so that's good. Now, we haven't told It's probably writing it to that other directory that we had. So we need to go into our config.d and nano paths names. So remember in the LibreNMS web GUI, I changed the directory of where the Smokeping files are going to live. I changed it to this directory. So I actually want to copy this and paste it because I haven't told Smokeping where to write the files to. It's writing to its default directory, which is right here, var lib smokeping. So I'm going to change this to this directory instead. So we need to do a systemctl restart smokeping. Now we usually do a status on this to make sure it didn't complain about anything. That looks okay. So now let's go to opt LibreNMS rd smokeping. We got anything in here? Okay, this is a good sign. This directory was empty before. I just created it. I didn't do anything, but now it looks like smokeping is actually writing to it. So let's go in here to firewall, and we can see that we now have one RRD file in here, which is my firewall. They just organize it by device type, but they should mostly all be in here. Okay, so here's all the other devices I have. And each one of these RRD files is actually the smokeping graph data. So this is where they're all going to be stored in here. And now when you click on devices in here, latency tab, we should start seeing graphs in here. Now this is going to take a little bit to generate data, but the fact that it's showing up here and not showing you any errors is good because it means it's reading that data. So now one other thing is that if you only have a even if you have quite a few devices, you probably want to ping it. By default, smokeping is pinging every 5 minutes. But that kind of gets us into the same problem we had with LibreNMS when it's pinging every 5 minutes. Even though it is pinging 20 times, it's still only doing it 5 minutes. So we can change this to a lower interval, which is under the database configuration file here. So right here, this step 300, this is 5-minute interval. So I'm just going to change this to 60. Now, when I do this, it's going to not, the RRD files are going to get already messed up since I already created them with the 5-minute steps. Once you try to change steps like that, it gets a little messed up. There are, I think, some RRD tools you can run to convert them, but to be honest, you might as well just start off the bat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write this, and then I'm going to delete the files in that smokeping directory here. I'm just going to delete all of them and restart the smokeping service so it recreates them with the 1-minute interval. Okay, so system, if we go into smokeping, we'll see that there's no files in here. Systemctl restart smokeping service. And we can look in now. It created the new files again. Okay, systemctl. Okay, cool. So this is all running great. Okay, and these graphs will start to fill out here after a while. So now if you did want to have more than 2 processes running, so when smokeping starts, you got to remember too that smokeping is totally separate than LibreNMS. It's running like on its own polar cycle. So while LibreNMS is polling every 5 minutes, smokeping's all by itself. It's running every minute, and it's trying to ping as much as possible. So these are the 2 kind of processes that it's running. So each one of these is going to be responsible for pinging a bunch of devices. But if you're starting to get into thousands and thousands of devices, these 2 are not going to be enough. So you need to increase that. And we can do that with LibreNMS. Now, I don't know for whatever reason, it's not in the web GUI. You can't set this one in the web GUI. So you have to go into LibreNMS config file, the config.php, and set this one. So if we go to opt LibreNMS nano config, and we'll scroll down the bottom. I probably already, no, I didn't change this one. So I'll just go down here at the bottom, and instead of 2 probes, I'm going to change this to, I don't know, 10. So now we should see LibreNMS Fping 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 when it starts. And in fact, if you look at the probe file here, oh, I'm sorry, we need to go to this one. So we can see we have 2 probes in here, but now when I rerun this LNMS command, I'll say it right one of these days, it's going to generate a new probes file with the 10 ping processes in here. So what I'll do is I'll just go find that script again right here. We'll run this. Okay, now we're going to look at that file again, and we can see we have the 10 processes in here now. So we don't ever need to edit this file. So now we need to restart the process to read that file. Okay, you can see we have all 10 processes here. Now, I don't have a lot of devices, so this would be kind of pointless. I mean, you could do it. There's nothing hurting it. But yeah, you can see that each one of these, if you look at this debug in these logs, you'll see that this process 3 was probing 2 targets. You'll see other targets in here that it was probing. So yeah, this is all working good here. Let's see, I don't think there's anything else. Now, we are going to configure the web GUI. I'll do that at the end, but let me just talk about if you have RRD on a separate machine real quick. If you do have that, you can do one of 2 things. You can do what we just did and install it on the host where the web GUI is, and it'll probably be fine, but now you have your RRD files kind of in 2 separate places. So I don't know if that might be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not quite sure, but that's up for you to decide. Now, if you want to go a little bit more complicated route, you can install Smokeping on the actual RRD host and do everything we just did on the RRD host, including putting the RRD files in the LibreNMS directory. However, I haven't figured out a way to get Smokeping working with RRD cached. So basically, when Smokeping's writing the RRD files, they're writing them straight to the disk. And I have 10,000 devices, and it really hasn't increased the disk I/O that much. But you could get to a point where that becomes a problem. So you could probably just install Smokeping on its own dedicated machine. And that might work too, maybe on one of the polars. So there is a couple different options there, but supposedly it can work with RRD cached. I just haven't figured out how to make that work yet. Now, the real issue is that it definitely won't read from RR cached. When you're viewing these graphs in LibreNMS, this is actually going into the hard disk and looking at the RRD files. If I view any of my other graphs in here, they're actually going to be pulling these over RRD cached. It's actually going over a network socket and pulling these over RRD cached. But Smokeping does not support that. It has to look in this directory right here. This directory we set right here. So your RRD files have to be in this directory. And it has to be, it has to be this. There's no other option, or whatever directory you pick, but it has to be on the local hard disk. Now, a way around that, if you had your RRD files on a separate server, is to just mount a share between the 2 servers on the web GUI, this server, wherever your web GUI is. Just mount a folder that points to the Smokeping files on the RRD server, and that would get you to the same concept, because it's always going to look in this directory for them, and if it doesn't find them, nothing works in here. So just keep that in mind if you're running RRD cached on a separate server. Okay, so the last step we're going to do here is we're going to set up the Smokeping web GUI, and that'll just allow us to view different graphs. And if you want to set up some of those other probes and different advanced stuff with Smokeping, you'll probably want to set up the web GUI, because that's really the only way you can view the information. So we're going to get started here, and we are running Nginx, so we're going to use this config file here, but they do have an Apache one up here also. So we're going to go and edit this configuration file for Nginx and add this stuff in there. So let's go in here. See, that's one of the tricky things. I think in the guides, they probably tell you to say LibreNMS.conf for the config file, but in this one, they're telling you to edit LibreNMS. So, yeah, you got. I mean, somebody just needs to put .conf in there to keep it consistent with all the other docs. But those are the things you need to look out for with really any system. That just like it didn't get changed in some different documents. So. We're going to go down here. Maybe we'll go down here to right here. So they want us to copy this whole location and that location. So that's fine. We'll put the comment in there too. Okay, that all got put in there. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. This is not really formatted right, but it shouldn't matter for Nginx. So now they want us to restart the... Oh, I did not know that. Well, let's try that. Make sure after saving your configuration file, you can make sure the syntax is okay. That would be helpful. Oh, it was okay. That's awesome. So let's restart it. Okay, so now it's saying we should be able to go to Smokeping. So this was going to be /Smokeping, I think. So now let's go to here. Where is it? Tools, Smokeping. So, well, that didn't work. Well, that error took a little while, but I finally figured it out. That error was because I didn't have this FCGI wrap package installed, and basically this, when Nginx is a web server, it passes along the code to a separate processor or server or socket, this FCGI wrap, and this wasn't installed, so it was throwing back me this error saying, hey, I can't communicate with the upstream server, which is this FCGI wrap. So once I had that installed with this apt-get installed CGI wrap, it created a socket here, and this socket is referenced in my LibreNMS config here. So that's why when I saved this config, it wasn't erroring out when I restarted the Nginx server. Everything was fine in this config. There was nothing wrong with it. It's just that this socket wasn't created yet. So now when I restart the Nginx server, I can actually get to it now. So let's go over here to Overviews and Tools and Smokeping, and now we're in the Smokeping web GUI here. And you can see this is that same firewalls network, how they organized it, and you can see all the devices in here and use this side of it too. Okay, real quick here. If you are going to be putting your Smokeping RRD files in the LibreNMS directory, this OPT LibreNMS RRD, do this user mod. This is appending a group LibreNMS to the Smokeping user. And I'm pretty sure I did this when I ran through it the first time, but I didn't include that in the video. So yeah, just put that in there and you should be okay. Okay, well, I think that's just about it. Thank you again for watching.